I'm Joe Veslak, and this is the review of the 2025 BMW 228 Gran Coupe. For 2025, the BMW 228 Gran Coupe gets a refresh. This is not to get confused with the BMW 2 Series, which is rear-wheel drive based. This is an actual front-wheel drive based platform, so I want you to think BMW X1, BMW X2, and the Mini Cooper Countryman, which all share the same exact platform as this car. So the biggest difference about the Gran Coupe is that it's front drive based. So it's not the traditional BMW that we're used to. So there's a different balance. And when you look at it, you see 4 doors. And I don't know about you, when I hear coupe, I think 2, but that's not the case here. But who is it for? We kind of look at someone who hasn't driven a BMW yet and you want to get into the brand. So this is an option, but overall, honestly, it doesn't really look like a BMW until you get up close to it and start seeing the badges itself. It looks good, but it just kind of looks like a normal car. And it is a BMW. The price tag shows that it's a BMW, but it doesn't have the traits of the traditional BMWs that we experienced. For our test program, we purchased a 2025 BMW Gran Coupe X-Drive. It has a 2-liter twin turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces 241 horsepower. The final assembly point is Leipzig, Germany. Base price starts at $41,600. Options include the premium package for $1,600, driving assistance plus package for $500, heated steering wheel is $200, and Brooklyn gray metallic paint comes to $650. The destination fee is $1,175, coming in at a total cost of $45,725. Getting in and out of the Gran Coupe isn't the easiest, but it's not the end of the world. It's pretty obvious that it's a low slung car. The roof line's pretty low. You have some sloping A-pillars here that you have to duck around. Also, the sills are a little wide, but it's pretty typical of smaller sporty sedans. So that being said, you kind of know what you're getting into, literally. So I mentioned that this BMW is not really like other BMWs, but when it comes to fit and finish, they're using the same materials that you'll see in most BMWs that we've tested. All the panel lines and all the gaps and everything are tight. It feels pretty solid. So whether this is your first BMW or you own BMWs before, when you get in here, you're gonna actually feel like you got a BMW. So in terms of driving position, you have tons of adjustment. It's easy to adjust the steering wheel. It telescopes out and goes down low, which I like. Also, typical of BMWs, you can sit really low to the floor. And this is nice because you start to gain headroom, and for taller drivers, you're gonna like that. The seats are really comfortable and have good support. Also, yeah, there's adjustment here too. You can adjust the leading edge. So for taller drivers with longer legs, that's nice. The one thing, if you are a larger driver, you'll notice there's pretty aggressive seat bolstering, so you might find that they might be a little restricting. I know for me, they fit me really well, so that is important, and it's really nice when it comes to more spirited driving. The seats do a really good job at holding you in place. One big letdown is from a more premium brand to not have any lumbar adjustment. The seats actually do have a good amount of natural built-in lumbar, but to see no adjustment here is kind of surprising. So again, this Gran Coupe has 4 doors, so you actually have a door to get into the back. Now the back seats, you can fit smaller children or even smaller adults. It's not too bad in a pinch, but you're gonna be crammed back there. It's tight on leg room. Even getting in is pretty bad. It has a really tight footpath. Not the most enjoyable, but really the experience is meant to be had up front. In terms of interior storage, there's not that much. You do have a nice spot to hold your phone, and for wireless charging, there's another little shelf above. It's small, but it is a space to put your things. I do like the tall, deep door pockets, but they're a little difficult to get into. You have to weave your hand between this upper door pull to get in there. But overall, there are a few places to put some things, but if interior storage is your priority, this isn't the vehicle you want to go to. So when we talk about controls, the Gran Coupe has a lot of similarities to the X1 and X2. You get the same exact shifter, which I don't seem to mind. I prefer more Prindle or on the column shifters, but this actually works pretty good. My biggest gripe is the park and the parking brake are actually the exact same control. So that might be a little confusing, but Once you figure that out, it's no big deal. So with the steering wheel, you'll notice is identical to the X1 and X2, has decent labeling, buttons work pretty well. The biggest thing is the center screen. So now you have your climate controls is all done through here, besides your max defrost for front and rear, which is kind of odd to think when you get drawn into all climate functions being up here. I spent a long time looking for it to then find that they're actually down here by the shifter. I guess you can say once you learn it, then you know that they're there. There are some static buttons here off to the side of the screen, so makes it a little easier to navigate. Very typical BMW system that's a little busy, especially here. If you go into the apps and then you have to scroll down, and yeah, it's kind of difficult to get to certain applications, especially if they're ones that you frequently use. Also, you go into climate, you open up the climate screen, everything you do is 2 steps. And what's even harder that I don't like is now you have your heated steering wheel and your heated seats, which is this small icon right next to the temperature. You open that up and then you have to toggle through and adjust those. You can figure it out, but most other vehicle systems are a little simpler to use than this. But the center screen is actually really nice. At first, it looks like one long big screen, but it's really not. It divides the driver's screen as well as the center screen. And this is 10.7-inch center screen run by BMW's iDrive 9. You also have the capability of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So if you're not a big fan of the native system, that should pretty much get most of the frustrations out of the way. You still have to deal with the climate screen down below, but in the end, not too bad. So in terms of cargo, I wasn't expecting much when I looked at the Gran Coupe, but it's actually not too bad. The trunk lid raises up nicely high out of the way, and then you'll notice there's actually a pretty flush floor here. So loading and unloading isn't that bad. There's not much lift over. And then you'll notice the floor actually folds up and you can fold it back and you get a deep well. It's about, I don't know, 5-6 inches deep. Yeah, overall that's pretty handy. One thing that's actually nice too is the seat. The rear seat splits into 3 separate sections. So even if you wanted, you can fold down the center section, still retain 2 rear passengers for any other longer items in there. You also get a tire mobility kit, which comes in here. It's behind this little funky panel you pull out. A little compressor and some sealant. You do have something if you do run into a flat or a puncture. So when it comes to driving the 228 Gran Coupe, we think about the sporty nature of the 3 Series, the 235i. So the expectations are high. Overall, the transmission shifts pretty good. Now you have a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. So with the dual clutch transmission, you have one clutch dedicated to the even set of gears and another clutch pack dedicated to the odd. So shifts come really quickly when you have the second clutch pack already preloaded on that next gear ready to go. With that, you'll notice with the X1 and the X2, we complained a lot about low speed drivability issues. Now that does carry over here, but once you get through all of that, the engine makes plenty of power and it's pretty easy to make passes. The ride in the Gran Coupe isn't all that bad. It's pretty firm, but there is a decent level of compliance. It's not until you get into repeated impacts or some really broken pavement that you'll notice that it feels a little brittle. And that's something that we not typically see of BMWs. Yeah, we may see it in a little more performance trim, but overall, that's where you'll notice where it falls apart. One good aspect from the sporty ride is the body control is really good. There's minimal roll, forward pitching, especially under braking or heavy acceleration. And then it translates into the turns. Once you start to turn in, you'll notice the turn-in's responsive. There's a decent level of grip. So even though it's front wheel drive base, you might not notice it until you really start to push. And if you've driven other BMWs, you know how neutral they are, how nicely balanced they are, especially being rear wheel drive base. They're more apt to slide out in a turn, where this, once you really start to push it, the vehicle ultimately runs wide. Visibility isn't too bad. We have some large A-pillars up here and they grow larger towards the base. So some of your frontal views, are a little obstructed by that. But overall, it's a pretty typical experience of a lower slung sedan. You'll see the B-pillars are a little wide, but even over the shoulder views aren't too bad. The rear, you kind of have a higher deck lid, but the window's a decent size. So I'd say there's not really any big complaints. Pretty typical for the class. When it comes to safety features, the BMW Gran Coupe has everything that we recommend standard, which is nice because you used to have to go and spend extra money to get all of these, but now you don't have to worry about it if you choose this vehicle. So that's our video review for the 2025 BMW Gran Coupe. Overall, this is a BMW, maybe not for a previous BMW owner, but someone that's never driven a BMW. They'd probably be pretty pleased with it. All that aside, if you're gonna spend close to 50 grand, you can probably go to another manufacturer and get a model there fully spec'd out. But you're not gonna get that BMW badge that you're probably looking for. For more information on small cars, go to consumerreports.org.